story is called Hide and Seek. Two young brothers were at home alone in the apartment while their parents visited their neighbors next door for a while. "Be good boys," the parents said. To keep themselves occupied, the boys decided to play a game of hide and seek. The older boy turned his head to the wall and began to count. He could hear his little brother's feet as he scampered about looking for a place to hide. "Ready or not, I'm coming," cried the older brother, and off he went looking for his brother. He looked in all the usual places: behind the sofa, in the bathroom behind the shower curtain, behind the curtains of every room, and under all the beds, but he couldn't find him. The apartment was eerily silent. Then he heard a scraping sound coming from the wardrobe. The boy was sure he already looked there, but he went anyway and called out, "Come out, I found you." But there was only silence. Once again, he called out his brother to come out, and again nothing. Opening the door, the boy tried to peer behind the wall of dresses and coats hanging there. He bent down, but he did not see any feet standing there. He began to rise up and put his hand out into the masses of clothes to feel for his little brother when a small, white, icy cold hand came out, grabbed his wrist, and tried to pull him into the closet. As he tried pulling himself free, he hears a noise behind him, looks over his shoulder, and sees his brother behind him. Couldn't you find me?" asked the boy. The older brother screams in fright and desperately tries to free himself from the grip of the hand, all while being pulled into the wardrobe. The younger boy grabs him, and together they manage to pull free. They both run screaming from the apartment. Nobody knows what would have happened if the hand had managed to pull him in. Do you? Story 2 is called The Long Dead Boy. Once upon a time, there was a 10-year-old girl who lived in London in a very old house. She hated the house. It was cold and damp all of the time. Plus, none of her friends would come visit because it was believed that by everyone in the neighborhood that a ghost lived in the house. The little girl was curious about the ghost, but nobody would talk to her when she asked questions about it or the history of the house. The house was scary, and some nights were worse than others. One night, when she was in her room reading, the lamp suddenly went off. She thought the light bulb had died. She did not want to bother her mother, who was already sleeping, by asking for a new bulb. So she put down her book and prepared to sleep. All of a sudden, there was a quiet knocking on the window next to her bed. She saw the reflection of a boy, about her age, reflected on the window glass. The girl turned to look in her room, but saw nothing. She got out of bed and went over to her lamp. She felt something wet on the ground. She flicked on the lamp, which now worked, and saw a red stain where she was standing. Then it disappeared. It wasn't blood, because the red was too bright, almost pink, like paint. She scratched at the purple wall of her room, and, believe it or not, behind the purple paint was pink, the same dark shade that had been on the floor. The girl ran out of her room towards her parents' room, but then she saw something that made her open her mouth and to scream. Though no sound came out, the attic door was right above her staircase, really high up, only her dad could reach it. Hanging from it was a noose thing that they hung people on. The girl ran back to her room, and there was a body in her bed. She grabbed her phone to take pictures. She wanted proof. She wanted to know in the morning if what she had saw was a dream or was it real. She took a picture of her bed and, without looking at it, ran to get her mother. Grumpily, her mother came up the stairs. The girl pointed to where the news had been, but now it was just a piece of string from her mother's sewing kit. She led her mother up to her room to show her the child's body, but now there was nothing. As the mother turned to leave the room, the girl remembered the camera. She grabbed it and turned it on, showing it to her mother. There was no longer a photo of her bed. Instead, there was a photo of a teenage boy with a red mark around his neck and pink paint all over his torn clothes. Her mother told her to stop joking around. However, her mother had an extremely worried look on her face. When asked what was wrong, she said, "He is back." The little girl never saw the boy again, and her mother refused to tell her who he was.